I refuse to stop playing this deck. I'm sure at some point I will get tired of playing this deck, but I've been playing it now for 14, actually 15 months, and that time has not happened yet. I refuse to stop. Drawing a card off Moye and chain blocking Chi is just too fun. I can't stop. Apo for 3, Princess Engrave, IP and Spell Trap Zone. Damn, bro, that's crazy. I'm still gonna normal Moye though, even though I shouldn't be. I have had a good bit of success with this deck, this format, at a local level. That being said, my locals is pretty competitive. I do have like 4 of them, so one of them is at least bound to be. That being said, I'm not acting like locals tops are the most important thing ever, because they're not. I'm looking to get an invite to Nats by topping or getting my invite at a regional. However, this is still a way to log my progress and see how far I've actually come. That being said, you guys are here for a deck profile, so here we go. Nothing you're about to see in this profile is anything out of the ordinary, so let's just go ahead and get right on into it. You have the bread and butter of your deck, all the Swordsoul cards, Moye, Double Taya, Triple Long One, the Supplementary Engine, the Honorary Swordsoul, 3 Ecclesia. Then for the tennies, you just have your 3 Ashuna, and then you have 2 Adhara and 2 Vishuddha. This is just what it is. I'm not playing Shithana. So we're just going to get on to the hand traps. 3 Ash, 3 Droll, 3 Imperm. We also have 2 copies of DD Crow and 2 copies of Bell. This is all primarily for the Fire King Snake Eye deck that you just kind of have to play. 3 Emergence, 1 Summit. This is standard, I think it should be anyway. 3 Desires, 1 Called By, 1 Blackout. That's pretty much it. There's nothing like super special about this. This is just a regular Swordsoul list. We're going to get into the side deck first. We've got 3 Thrust, 1 Herald of the Abyss, 1 Soul Release, 1 Feather Duster. We've also got the 2 copies of Evenly Matched, 1 Deck Devi. I know it sounds like Coat, but it's a good thrust target for Snake Eye. 2 Anti-Spell Fragrance, 1 Different Dimension Ground, another thrust target for Snake Eye. And finally, triple copies of Solemn Judgment. This is a little bit of a deviation from the norm. I know it sounds a little bit like Cope, but it's really good. For the extra, we've got Triple Monk, 1 Shaman. That's as standard as it can be. 2 Chi-Jiao, 1 Dragite. We've got 1 Boxia. We've got 1 Draco Berserker, 1 Yazi, 1 Chaofang, 1 Baron, 1 Qijing Longwan, 1 Shenyang, and 1 Rudy Rose Dragon. Rudy Rose hasn't come up a whole lot, but it's really funny against Fire King and Snake Eye. Genuine point of concern that I had when deck building for this format is the idea that no matter how many board breakers or whatever you put in, it just never feels like it's enough. So because of that, we're just in the middle of a hand trap format, because Fire King Snake Eye doesn't really care that much about board breakers because of all the interaction from Grave, from the Kieran pops to the Princess Engrave. It doesn't really deal with a whole lot if you just break the board because there's so much follow-up on the crackback. As a result of that, I opted to play as many hand traps as I could feasibly play without hurting the consistency of my deck. That number turned out to be 14, because if I went up to 15, I would have to cut Sacred Summit, which I did not feel comfortable doing. In that case, it wasn't really about the consistency of my deck as much as it was about the ceiling of my deck. So I did not feel comfortable cutting the Sacred Summit for a 15th hand trap. That being said, The number 14 was as many as I could fit in without making any drastic changes to the deck. Thus, what we're looking at here are the mathematical odds of opening 2 or more hand traps within a given hand. Just starting from the top, the odds of us opening exactly 2 hand traps are 35%, roughly 36%. The probability of opening less than 2 hand traps, the odds of opening less than or equal to 2 hand traps is roughly 77%, rounded up at 78%. The odds of opening 3 or more hand traps is 22%. And the odds of opening 2 or more hand traps is 58%. That final number is what attracted me to play this many hand traps. I do think that roughly 58% of opening 2 or more is pretty good odds considering that we are playing a 40 card deck. So I do like this number a lot. And I'm very happy that there is such a large chance of us opening that many hand traps, because that's kind of how many you need to stop the fire decks right now. Unless you're playing Dimension Shifter. And if you're playing Dimension Shifter, then most of this math goes out the window, because D-Shifter is the only one you need. Obviously, this doesn't apply to us because we don't play Shifter. Also, here's some real quick gameplay. Yeah, so if you only have one Omni Negate, you probably shouldn't be negating Emergence, but I noticed that a lot of people tend to negate Emergence if it's the first card I activate, which probably is very incorrect. You should probably either negate the Moye or the Longwan. Probably the Longwan if anything. Or just help a homie out and don't negate anything, that way I can get my invite at regionals, which would be very, very appreciated. Thank you very much. Speaking of regionals, there is one last topic that I wanted to address regarding Swordsoul and its position in the current metagame before I ended this video, so I guess we'll get right down to it. Yeah, you might be wondering how to win against Fire King Snake Eye or even pure Snake Eye this format, given the fact that the deck is literally tier 0 and multiple events have proven this. Well, you don't. You get really lucky and play really, really well. But the fact that it's a tier 0 format proves that it doesn't matter really how well you play. If you're not playing a shifter deck and you're not playing Snake Eye, then you probably aren't winning. Right? I mean, let's be real. You can do well this format if you are a good player and have good skills, and you know your interactions, and you know how your deck can handle the Fire King Snake Eye interactions. But face it, this format, you're either playing Fire or Shifter. It's one of the two. And outside of Kijing Longwan and regular Longwan, there's not really much Fire to be found in a Swordsoul deck. Your opponent's just gonna go Princess effect when you summon a token off Moye, and if they don't have that, they probably have a way to pop Kieran from the deck. On res of the Kieran pop, they'll just pop your token with the revive off of Kieran. But similarly to Fire King, you also just kind of auto-die to Dimension Shifter. If you open Swordsoul monsters as opposed to all of the tennies, you can still kind of play through it, but you lose a lot of card advantage while playing through it. And if you only open tennies, you just kind of auto-lose. Ultimately, this format, I feel like Swordsoul is a good deck that's in a bad spot. It's not that the deck itself is bad. It really just suffers from the fact that right now it's not a fire deck, and if you're not a fire deck, you're just not the best because of how high the ceilings of the fire decks currently are. And that's okay. I understand that metas change, formats change. Sometimes cards are released that make decks just kind of broken, and other decks kind of suffer if they're not the best of the best. And that's just the way the game is. But I'm still a member of the Swordsoul army, and I have no reason to stop. I hope you all enjoyed this theory and deck profile, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.